Okay, we're recording now. So, Addy, thank you for coming onto the channel. We're doing the Saturday morning chat.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me, Doc.
Yeah, no problem. So hopefully everything's okay in your neck of the woods.
Yeah, I just got, I didn't sleep last night actually, but I slept pretty late yesterday, so it's kind of working out. Going to my grandparents later today. I just got back from a walk. I did a walk and talk a little bit, just talking about the Titanic and the pandemic and kind of the similarities I see between those two historical events, which, well, the one isn't really an historical event yet because we're still living in it, but uh, and I saw a deer too, actually.
Really?
Yeah,
Did you shoot it? Did you shoot it?
I didn't even notice, man. She was
Was it a big?
me,
Was it a big one or was it?
No, she's a little doe, probably like 100 pounds. But yeah, dude, she's watching me the whole time. I know it. And I was like, oh, let's walk up here into the woods a bit. I'm talking, and I look up. Oh, like, oh, and like I just saw her out of the corner of my eye. I was like, oh, I see that satin. They kind of get like a satin color in the summer, so they stick out a little more. And yeah, so I just stayed still for about, I think it was a good 3 minutes, and for like maybe a minute or two, she was cool with me. And not even, it's probably like 30 seconds to a minute, and then she was like, okay, I'm not cool with this guy. She's just nervous, right? And I was really still. She was like, checking me out. She's like, what is this guy doing? And then she started kind of hissing at me, and she kind of kicked up a little bit away from me, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna get out of her nest here, because there's like a little patch of woods. It wasn't very big, so I knew it was kind of by a highway, so I didn't want to kind of ruin her morning and make her have to go find another small patch of woods somewhere. So I just walked back down. So but that was cool. I was kind of hoping I'd see a deer this morning, so that was cool.
There's a lot of deer in New Jersey. I'm actually surprised. When I moved to
really?
the East Coast.
I've never been to Jersey.
I just like there is so many deer in New Jersey.
Wow.
There's a lot of coyotes actually in Connecticut.
I've read that, and they get some. Actually, they'll get some of these guys every now and again over there too.
Really?
On rare occasions, yeah. I've read up. I think it's Connecticut, and then some other New England state. They'll occasionally get a cougar. Usually, they're just like transient males that are trying to find established territory. But likewise in Wisconsin too, you'll get every now and again you'll get a farmer that catches one on a cam or just spots it, eyewitness sighting. But
I'm looking into actually purchasing some land, about 15 acres. I can't say where.
Yeah.
But I mean it's a cool spot, but hopefully I can get the deal going here.
Sweet, man.
But
you gotta show me around once that happens.
It's gonna be interesting if I can close the deal, but but anything can fall through when you're dealing with financing and everything else. But so what I'd like to do is, before we start talking about the current events, because I have the storefront, selling different products, because I have a special going on, and the coupon code for that is discount 5, all uppercase, discount 5. It's a $5 off coupon. But so what I have is, obviously different products. I have the nano silver products. I have the C60. I have the Boomer Boost supplements, and Quench Naturel, which is kind of like an oral and skincare product line. All natural.
You were sold out of the C60 for a bit there, weren't you?
I still have one item that is stocked. Okay. The other 3 items are on back order. Now, so for today, I'm trying to promote some different products. So one is the silver gel. Now, this silver gel is a nano silver that is much, much better than Perel, because it doesn't have an alcohol-based solution. No, this is much better, trust me. So that will evaporate, and they'll crack your skin if overused. Mm-hmm. This will stay on your skin for about 5 hours. You can put it around your mouth and around your nose, and it's a great sanitizer. This you can use every day and not crack your skin, and your skin stays moist, and you have that protection.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to put ethyl around your mouth.
Right. So this is a very, very good product. And this, in terms of like sanitizers, because it's the nano gel and it doesn't have the alcohol in it, it's not alcohol based. This is the best that you can buy on the market. And it's not that expensive. I think it's around $24, something like that for a tube.
Yeah, and anybody from my channel that wants to check that out, I'll have Paul's links in the description box below if you guys want to go and peek around his store.
So thank you. I appreciate it. As you know, Alex Jones used to sell a nano silver product. Okay. He was using the silver sol technology. Well, I purchased right from the lab that makes silver sol, that has the patent, and I purchase it from the lab. So all of my nano silver is the best that you can buy on the market. All right. And Alex Jones no longer makes a nano silver toothpaste. He now makes a charcoal toothpaste. Okay. I haven't used his charcoal toothpaste. I used to use his silver blue toothpaste all the time. It was very good. But because he stopped carrying the nano silver product line on his store because of some of the things he was saying, and he was, slapped by the FDA.
Oh, they stopped selling
it? Yeah. So I am selling the best toothpaste on the market that has nano silver in it. This is it right here, and it's only $19.95, and it's the best you can get, and it has the silver salt technology in it, and this is it. And so I use this every day. This is better than the charcoal toothpaste that Alex Jones is selling under the brand Dr. Jones, because his father is a dentist. So they had to discontinue the nano silver line, and then they just said, okay, we need the toothpaste line, so we'll just throw in charcoal. This is much better in terms of whitening the teeth, and it's mint flavored, but it has the nano silver in it, so it's destroying the pathogens, all right, the bacteria that causes plaque. So this is the best you can get for $19.95. All right. And then again, also through ABL, I have the Max 30 liquid that I take every day. Okay. This will help boost your immune system. All right. By boosting up your immune system, this one is about $57. And then I have this is a 30 ppm, and then I have a 10 ppm, which is parts per million. And this is like about $40. So depending on which price point you have, 30 is a little stronger, but it costs a little bit more. It's $57. And then the Max 10, Health Max 10 is 10 ppms at about $40.
And that's just like 10 milliliters or a teaspoon or.
So what I do is every day, all you got to do is just take a teaspoon or a tablespoon, depending on your body weight, and you just take it once a day. I usually take it in the afternoon, but you can take it anytime during the day. I normally take it in the afternoon because I take so many supplements in the morning that I want to mix it up.
Yeah.
So I take it in the afternoon. So every day I take a teaspoon of the liquid every day, and then use the gel on the hands for sanitizing, and that doesn't do any issues. Now, if you can use this liquid also to purify water. So let's say if you like a Brita container and it has the filter, you can just put a little cap of water in it, depending on how the size. but like a cap or two filled with the nano liquid, and you just pour it in there, and it helps with purifying the water. Now, if someone purchases more than $150 on the store, they will get a free gift, right?
Ooh.
And that is that free gift to to help try to promote the Quench Naturel products. One free gift until supplies last is the kombucha facial soap. All right, this is all natural. There's no synthetic preservative stuff. All right,
so parabens.
There's if you're allergic to anything that's fake, this is all natural, and you can see the ingredients on the website. Or the hyaluronic acid serum, which helps with toning and maintaining the collagen. Normally, what people do is that they'll wash their face with the kombucha soap. Then they use the hyaluronic acid spray. It's a spray. You just spray it a little bit on your face. And then there's a toner that someone can buy on the store also to put on the face. And what happens is it goes into the skin, and it helps maintain and rejuvenate some of the collagen. Collagen is the part of the connective tissue that kind of gives you that youthful look. So people that right, so people that start to get wrinkles or saggy skin or whatever, that a big part of that is that just the collagen health isn't there. Another important thing to do for collagen health is vitamin C. Vitamin C is a major component in making certain collagen fibers. Okay, collagen is there's like collagen 4, collagen 3, collagen 1, depending on where you are in the tissue. So there's different types of collagen, but the main one is the collagen 4. And basically, what happens is that hyaluronic acid is this right here. Hyaluronic acid is a backbone, and then there are other glycoproteins that are attached to it, and that has a certain charge. Well, because it has a charge, it attracts water. Okay, and that gives you that feel, right? That look. If you don't have enough of that collagen, then you don't have enough of the charge to be able to attract the water. So as you get older, you have less, right, and you don't retain the water.
I didn't know
that. You just kind of just say it. So so this is kind of like, this is a supplementation to helping with the skin rejuvenation. But on top of this, people should eat. You can eat leeks, you can eat avocados, and and also take higher doses of vitamin C, and drink water. And you will notice over time that your skin will get better, and that you'll be able to maintain a little bit more of the water in the skin, or just below the dermis, in the connective tissue area, and that will give you a little bit more youthful look, to the best of your, to your biochemistry. But that's what this stuff is, all natural. There's nothing artificial in this. All right, most of the stuff is organic, certified organic. Some things can't be certified organic, but they're all natural. So, but this is the great product line. So if someone spends $150, they get this for free, or they get the hyaluronic acid for free.
One thing I do know about collagen is men actually have more collagen than women. So ladies, go ahead and head over to Dr. Cottrell's store.
Well, I appreciate that. And the discount is all caps discount 5, and that's a $5 off coupon. And if you
5, the numeral?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then if you spend $150 or more, you will get a free gift. All all orders get a small mini stick, lip balm mini stick. It's all natural lip balm, no artificial ingredients. And the whole idea of the Quench Naturel products is people are allergic to, these artificial ingredients, or they want to try to detoxify their body. A lot of people don't realize that deodorant has aluminum in it, and they're putting that on every day. Well, I have a deodorant line that is all natural, that has no aluminum in it. So if you want a real detoxified life, and you don't want any of this, artificial junk that you buy from Procter and Gamble, then head out to the store, because I mean to buy a bar of deodorant may be a little bit more expensive than what you would normally get at the store, at let's say Walgreens or whatever. But the thing is it's all natural. It's not that synthetic junk, and you're not going to have the aluminum buildup over time. And you'll notice that the main theme here is boosting up your immune system. If you take in products that are good for you, that don't have those artificial ingredients or preservatives, then you're not bombarding your immune system, as the immune system is trying to fight those artificial things that are in the body. So by detoxifying and using natural ingredients, then what happens is your body's health over time gets better and better and better. So that's one component of boosting up your health, is just keep out the aluminum and all the artificial stuff, and like I said, all those soaps and stuff, that's all natural. Now, with the silver solution, the Max 30 and the gel, that again will help boost up your immune system, because one, it's keeping down the pathogen load in your body, and reducing inflammation, and making sure that your immune system is boosted to its highest peak that you can as you get into the flu season. Because the thought here is that if you are worn down like an old car, you're not going to be able to fight the pathogens that are going to be around in the fall. But if your immune system is like in its peak, you've heard that when people are really healthy, they don't get sick as often, while everyone around them is getting sick. Well, it's not that they're not getting the pathogen. They are getting the pathogen. It's just that their system is so revved up, like a Ferrari, that it can fight it. So
they got 100% battery charge.
Right, exactly. So that's the whole point, is just to try to charge your battery. So if you buy $150 or more, you get a free gift, and every order will get a free lip balm or nail. I have a nail care thing.
Okay, nice.
Package that, for free. So with that said, I'm sorry about trying to push the store, but I mean, there's a lot of products that I'm trying to promote here. But let's get into the current events. So we were talking behind the scenes that Chicago had this another riot.
Yeah.
My understanding was that it was due to police brutality. It was, some sort of police officer shooting at or hit a minority individual. I don't know which minority. I'm assuming Black. But there was a lot of looting that took place. And this store owner, he was hit during the first riot, and then he was trying to recover, and then he got hit in the second riot. And they had pictures on Fox News where they just went into his store. It took 25 minutes for them to break the lock. He was calling the police. They didn't show up. And then they once they were able to break the lock, then they just totally trashed the store. And, and took everything. I mean, it's like, it's total
trash. Is it a clothing store?
No, I think it was more like a convenience store.
Oh, okay.
And he is now saying that because the police could not do their job that they were paid to do, he's suing the city for damages.
Good. Cook County is, oh man, it's like top 3 most corrupt counties in the U.S. I would say in terms of their justice, justice department and police departments there in that county.
You know, I just like, I don't understand, because this is tied into the whole BLM movement, this riot, all right? And I had a show with Stephen Molyneux the other day.
Yeah, I put that on my channel as a request.
Good, thank you. And so, because what we're trying to do is we're trying to repopulate Stephen on YouTube, on different channels, all right? Because they took him down. Well, okay. So through the power of numbers, we're going to repopulate Stephen on YouTube.
You know, one of the first comments I got, Paul, in that video was your guys' chat that I uploaded was, I have reported this this channel to YouTube, and
I got that too.
It'll be terminated shortly.
Yeah, I got that too. By Robert something, right?
I can't remember the username, but yeah, it was pretty soon.
I went to his channel. The only thing that he has posted on his channel, if it's the same person we're talking about,
it probably
was a bunch of WWF wrestling videos. So I mean, it's like, dude, what is your, here's the problem. And one, there was nothing wrong on what we were seeing on that video. It was truthful. It was funny. There was some humor. There was the Stephen Molyneux, normal philosophy. He's at a point right now in his life and perspective, and I understand why, where it's like there's going to be a great reset because mankind just sucks. It's just like we're lived too large. We're like the Roman Empire, decaying, and there is a lot of evidence to prove his point, and I agree with him, but I think he's slightly over the fence in terms of he's coming from the perspective it's too late. I don't think it's
really salvageable. He's getting a little jaded.
I think I don't think I think that he's getting to that point where it's like it's going to happen, and it's just like, oh well, Maybe I'm to the point where it's like I still believe in the American spirit and that we can turn the tide. I'm optimistic. I'm cautiously optimistic is I guess the best way to phrase it. Yes. Are we living too high on the hog? Yeah. Have we had, a lot given to us and do we deserve it? No, we don't deserve it. That we have, we have a generation that is basically a me generation and not a, what can I do generation. So there's a lot of problems. But when I look at really young kids, like I have friends that have kids, all right, and they're like, maybe they're 8 years old or 11 or 12 years old. I see, assuming that they stay this way, I see the potential of a great nation because of the upbeat of the children. Now the question is do they maintain that upbeatness? Do they maintain that exploring part of their ethos?
Curiosity.
Yeah, through their 20s. I don't know, but I'm cautiously optimistic of what I'm seeing with this latest generation. That are in that anywhere from 8 to 12 years old range. But that could change. That could change. And
you said there's a me generation. Is that the Zoomers / millennials, or is that who you're
Zoomers? What's Zoomer? I don't know what a Zoomer is.
They're like, I think it's anybody 2000 and after who's like, so basically the one after millennials. So I'm kind of at the tail end of millennials somewhat. My younger
All right,
brother.
well, let's get the definition straight. Okay, so we know the greatest generation is World War II.
Yeah.
Then the baby boom generation is my parents' generation. Okay.
But in between those is the silent generation.
Now, I thought that was Gen X. The boomers produced.
No, Gen X is younger. So
Well,
like so you're a boomer, yeah?
no.
You're
I
Xer?
thought I'm a Gen Xer. Gen
Okay,
Xer
okay.
started, I thought, 1968.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Yeah. Yeah,
Right.
you're not
So,
that old.
right.
Forgive me.
So
So
I
yeah,
was
but
born in
before
the
that
early
was
70s.
boomers, right? And then before that was Silent Generation, and then before that was Greatest Generation. So Silent Generation was born during World War II / right before it.
Oh, then my father is a silent generation.
Yeah, that would be my
The-
grandparents.
yeah, because
Yeah,
he was born during the war. He was born
yeah. My
during the war, not
grandfather
after
was
the war.
like,
My father was born during the war, and then my my mother was born right after the
yeah, my
war. So my
grandfather was
mother is really a
37, I
baby
think,
boomer.
1937. So he remembers like being in, I think, Minnesota and seeing the cargo planes going over, over him, over the Midwest, flying down south or to the East Coast. Um, so yeah, and he was 37. So he was kind of like more so the beginning or towards the beginning of the silent generation, right? And then of course, greatest generation was those that fought and were
Right.
adults during
So
that.
so I always thought the term was Eisenhower, the Eisenhower babies.
Oh,
So because that was when Eisenhower was general.
mm-hmm.
So there was a period of time where there were kids during the war,
Yeah,
or
pretty
just slightly
small
before.
demographic.
Yeah, no,
Comparatively.
right. So my father falls in that category. I
Mm.
always just throw him in the boomer category, but technically
Yeah,
he's
yeah. People kind of do
he was
that.
slightly before the boomers by only 3 years. So, but then the Gen Xers, come. Now I thought this about 68 was the split between boomer and Xer.
Yeah, that's what I read.
Okay,
Yeah.
so and then from there, then you had the Y generation.
Yeah,
I thought the
I
Y
always forget that one.
generation, I thought the Y generation was like somewhere in the 80s. They were born.
Yeah,
Like
that's the one I know
82,
the
84,
least
something like
is the
that.
Y generation. Yeah.
And then after that, maybe it's late 80s. It must be like every generation is like 20
Maybe.
years. So it was 68. Yeah, well that's about right. About 80, yeah, 68 to 80, uh, 88.
Yeah.
And then from there was the the Z generation. Okay, now
Yep.
this gets they changed the term
Yeah.
because the Z generation is before millennial, right? So
Yeah.
it's like the premillennial generation, and then you have the millennial generation. Now the
Yep.
millennial generation would be 2000 to 2020. So anyone that's
No,
born,
those are Zoomers. Those are Zoomers. So millennial is I don't know when it starts exactly, but it goes up to I want to say just the 90s basically is like if you're a 90s baby, you're a millennial. But like for example,
well,
my
why would you call
sister,
them a millennial if they were born before the millennium?
I don't know. I don't pick the names, bro.
So
I
they
don't get it
made
either.
so they made Z generation millennial generation.
Uh, they call them Zoomers or Generation Z. They're like the
Yeah,
the
Zoom. Yeah,
young
Z. Yeah.
ones right now. Like they're all 18 and 19 and 20. Like I got some cousins there. My sister she was born in 2000, so she's technically a Zoomer. But like my brothers and I, we're all millennials because we're all 90s
Right.
babies.
Right. Right.
So that's
No,
that's kind of why
I
actually.
always thought that the millennials were they were. I always thought they were ones that were born after the millennium.
No, those are too young to be millennials. Yeah,
Okay,
because
so all right.
like even like people who are 30 now are considered millennials. I think the cutoff is like 30 or 31, 32, somewhere in there.
I didn't know that.
Uh,
So I guess so kids that are like anywhere from 8 to 12 years old, they're
they don't have
Zoomers.
a name yet, I don't
They don't
think.
have a name yet.
Yeah,
Well, I
that's after Zoomers, whatever.
yeah,
I don't know what
I'm a little
the.
bit more optimistic with them because normally the children that don't have that aren't brought up in wealth, they usually tend to be hardworking and they find a way to be successful. It's the generation that was it was handed to them where they get lazy. So,
Yeah, I want to push back on that, Paul, a little bit, because I've talked to this guy Ryan Dawson about this, and uh, he's in his 40s. He hasn't told me his age exactly, but so he's like he's an Xer like you, yeah. I think a bit younger, but he actually takes the view that he actually has a bit of I don't want to say pity, but like he kind of like sympathizes a bit uh, with the millennials and the young people because of the fact that he sees in a lot of young people uh, a disbelief in work, effort, hard work, and reward because of several reasons. One, and I saw this stat actually this morning when I was doing a broadcast. I think as of July 2019, according to what I read, the majority, so greater than 50% of Americans are now either millennials or Zoomers, which mostly millennials, of course, but then the Zoomers are like, as I said, that the kind of those kids slightly younger than me. And because of, yeah, I think various reasons, but, just a huge number of that population, like I said, growing, most of them will, not ever own a house more than likely, right? And if they do, it's going to be, they'll be in their 40s or 50s. Whereas, like the Xers or the boomers, they had a lot more. If you get a college degree, you're making 40 grand, right?
well, not even that. In the Xer generation, you didn't even have to have a college degree. All you had to do was learn computers. All you had to do is know how to program, and
that was
you
my
were
dad.
making you were making $250,000 or $300,000 a year.
Yeah, now it's like you need a college degree to work at Uber, like or
here's the issue is that it's you can't paint this broad stroke of the whole generation.
Oh yeah,
Because there's segments, sure. All right. But what I noticed, all right, between Michigan and New York and New Jersey, Connecticut area, the children today that you would that would be going into college now. So I guess there's
Zoomers. Like freshmen this year would be Zoomers. Yeah.
Okay.
They'd be born in like 2002 or 2001.
Okay. So these people that I know, they had successful job. The parents had successful jobs. Multiple degreed, family, and the children never knew what it was like to not have.
Yeah.
So they had, they had ballet, they had tennis, they had, opera singing, or, they had piano or whatever. And they had all this extracurricular stuff. They learned, 2 or 3 languages. They went to a, boarding school. That's the kind of thing that I'm talking about. All right. So there's a section of society for the Zoomers where the parents worked hard to provide for their children to have a better educational experience, a better life than the parents had when they were kids.
Yeah.
All right. Then there's a section of society within the Zoomers where the parents were struggling. They were laid off maybe because of 9/11 or because of the Lehman crash or even because of COVID-19. And they've seen at least 2 major events in their life where hard work ended up being taken away and their parents lost their home or job or, their health or whatever. So I can see that it's this tale of 2 cities. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times, for the Zoomers. So it's not monolithic, So there is a large population that would fall in the realm. It's like, well, wait a minute. If I work really hard, the rich only get richer, and the middle class gets squeezed. I get that.
Yeah.
I understand it because, my parents, I didn't come from a wealthy family. I mean, my success was basically self-made. Now, um, now, with that said, there is a large population too in the United States for Zoomers where the parents did very well. And these
Yeah.
kids, are going to boarding schools that cost more than most people's college education. you know so this is the problem is the rich get richer and the middle class gets squeezed. So it depends on which Zoomer we're talking about.
Yeah. But the thing is, say like those kids you mentioned, that those privileged kids, like it doesn't even matter almost what
But
they
the number,
made.
here's the key is that even with the
Yeah.
Gen Xers, there were quite a few, there were many, especially in Michigan, that were quote privileged. Use the term privileged, but they had parents that had a lot of money and they were given a lot of opportunities. What my point is that the percentage of Gen Xers that had that were less than the
Yeah.
percentage of Zoomers.
Oh yeah.
The
Oh, yeah.
Zoomers have they're living in larger homes. They have much more opportunities in a larger in
a different
terms of
sense.
in the terms of per capita. You have a lot more of the ones benefiting from a more prosperous society for the Zoomers than we did with the Gen Xers. I mean, with the Gen Xers, it was notorious. It was parents getting divorced or having because that whole women's lib thing was going through the 80s, the 70s and 80s. Well, that's all Gen Xers. So with that caused, I mean, a lot of women didn't get divorced because they didn't have income. Well, once they were able to start having income, they started having more divorces. Well, that all happened in my generation, in the X generation.
Yeah.
So many Gen Xers were raised by a one parent because it was a divorced family.
Yeah, the first
I
kind
had
of
lots of friends.
generation
I had
where they
lots of
had
friends that went
a
through.
divorced parent. Yeah, but I would say this: I would much rather be poor in 1980 than now. Like if you're, like you said, if your family, your parents didn't set you up, like you are way more behind now, I would say.
Oh, I see what your point. You can get, let's put it this way. If back in the 90s or 80s, if you had the will, you had the ability to get out of your situation, and you could do it pretty easily. You could get out of your situation.
It's just a matter of time
in 3 years. Yeah, in 3 years you could be making coin.
In most cases, but now it's like those kids you mentioned, those privileged kids who the Zoomers and even the millennials who, and I went to college with some of these kids from the East Coast who literally they would like brag about how much cocaine they could do. Like I'm not joking. And you get these kids where it's like, it doesn't matter what they major in or what they study in college, how they spend college, because they're just going to work for their dad or their uncle or their grandpa, and it's, to the point
their connections. They have connections.
Yeah, whoever they know, right? Whereas like if you're a poor kid or you're lower middle class and you don't get into Yale and you don't get into Harvard, like you got a lot of work cut out for you, whereas in the olden days, it's like, like I said, that time period, as long
even
as
the
you get
whole
into a college, you're gonna be fine. And like say you are like your parents, for example, if they buy a house back in the 70s, that house is worth millions now potentially. It's tripled or quadrupled in price.
Yeah,
whereas now it's like you're lucky to get a house at all.
Yeah, but part of that is you have to adjust it for inflation. If you assume an inflation rate of anywhere from 3 to 5%, a home that, let's say, homes back then were like selling anywhere from a ranch style home in a nice neighborhood that was 1,200 square feet was selling for anywhere from $70,000 to $80,000. All right, and this is not in farm country. This was in in a populated suburban area with good schools. So that's like early 80s, mid 80s. Now you fast forward that through the 90s, and you're talking of quadrupling the price.
Oh yeah, those houses now are worth $400,000, $500,000
or more. Right.
More.
So right. So but you have to subtract
that
inflation. And then that's the true. When you subtract the inflation, then that's the true appreciation of the property. There is an appreciation of the property, but part of it is due to inflation. The dollar just doesn't go as far as it used to. Everything is just more expensive. I mean, you could get a really nice Mustang for less than 20 grand. Now, to get the same kind of Mustang, you got to spend 45 grand.
Yeah. I mean, I remember you could get a meal at McDonald's for $5 when I was a child.
Well, how much is it now?
It's almost $10 now. It's like $8.
They actually have an indicator. I haven't watched it in a while. I was paying attention to this stuff back in 2008, 2009. Or they have an indicator called the Big Mac indicator.
Yeah,
the cost of the Big Mac. The cost of a Big Mac.
Yeah, it's a good litmus test, isn't it? A McDonald's meal, or like even just like a soda pop. Like there was this on the way to my grandparents' house. Like I said, I'm going today. There's a small town right nearby, and we would stop there on the way when I was a kid. You get a Fanta for $1.25, and now it's I want to say 75 cents or $1. I can't remember.
I've never had those.
Yeah.
I mean the pop, right?
Yeah, the Fanta.
I've
soda.
never had that. I've never had that.
I called it soda because I was from Milwaukee, but most Wisconsinites call it pop. So in that sense, I'm kind of different from most Wisconsinites because I'm a city slicker when it comes to calling pop soda.
Well, I don't drink pop anymore because of the problem.
Yeah, I don't.
Heart problem, that my brother had.
Yeah, I heard you. Really, in your chat with Stefan. Yeah, you were talking about that.
So, but when I was a kid, I loved Verner's.
I don't know what is it.
Verner's is a ginger ale. It was made in Michigan.
Okay, I don't know it. I'm afraid to say.
Really, and then there is the Fanta is kind of like the brand that we had in Michigan was Crush.
Oh, okay.
Orange. It was an orange. Yeah. It was an orange flavor kind of thing. But it was Faygo. Faygo was the brand. It was the Faygo family had their own soda.
Faygo's like the knockoff Fanta. You get that at Quick Trip for like.
No, it was the other way around.
Really cheap.
Faygo came first. Faygo goes all the way back to the 60s.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, it's really cheap.
But I'm just saying this is that Faygo was around way before.
I didn't know that.
No.
Because for me it was always like Faygo was like if you only got 50 cents.
I saw pictures before. I've saw pictures with my uncle. Uncle Blair, who was 16 years exactly to the day older than I was because we had the same birthday, but he was obviously 16 years older than me. So he was supposed to go to get his driver's license on the day that my mother went into delivery for me.
Oh, wow.
But we shared the same birthday until he died.
That's quite a gap there between your mom and her brother.
Well, he was the youngest out of the family. They had a big family.
Oh, okay, big family.
So my mother was the third one in line, but they had a big family. Jewish family, big families. Yeah. So
this guy I interviewed this week, Paul, Augusto Gomez, his grandfather was born in the 19th century. Isn't that crazy? He was the youngest of a bunch of, I don't know how many siblings he had, but his father was born in, what was it, 1935, 1930s, somewhere in there, and his grandfather was like 1895. Wow. I was like, dude, that's insane. It's like President Tyler right there almost.
That's cool. That's cool.
You heard about that? President Tyler's grandson is still alive. He's got, I think, 2 grandsons still alive, or one.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah, because I think he had his last kid when he was 70, and then his son had his last kid when he was in his 70s. So yeah, President Tyler's grandson is still alive thanks to that. So I'm gonna try to do that. You know, have maybe on my last kid when I'm like in my 80s, and then
Well, that's what Larry King did. You know, Larry King started popping out kids when he was in his 70s.
Really, I didn't know.
Oh yeah, he remarried. I mean, he was divorced like 5 times, 6 times. I think they just got divorced. But you know, he has tons of youngins, you know, because of all these divorces, and you know, he remarries young. So, you still there? I think I lost you. Hello? You there? Okay. I lost your video there for a sec. I don't know why.
Yeah, me too. You were frozen for me as well.
I don't know. But all right, so now I forgot what I was saying.
You're saying Larry King. We're talking about guys who have kids.
So Larry King, you know, he gets remarried in young, and you know, and then they have kids. So he has a lot of young ones.
Yeah, I did not know that. That's why I'm like, you know, people, you know, they can say what they want, but I'm not having kids until at least in my 40s. Ian, you don't have any kids, do you, Paul?
No.
You gonna have them at some point?
I don't think so.
Really?
I don't think so. I don't see it in the cards.
Why is that?
I just don't see it in the cards. It's probably best that I just not have kids. I don't know.
Why do you say
I don't know. I just, you know, kids are okay if you rent them.
Rent them?
You know, and you
sound like Bill Clinton.
No, that's not what I meant. But I mean, you know, the point is that it takes a lot of effort. I see it with my brother. It takes a lot of effort to raise a child, you know. And
yeah, I wouldn't know.
And in this world, I'm not so sure raising a child in this environment is the best thing. I'm a very go type person. I, you know, set goals, and I just, you know, keep on going and going and going and setting goals. And I don't want to be saddened by modern society affecting the goal setting of my child. I would have high expectations, and I'm not so sure it would be very healthy mentally for them to reach those expectations. And I just would not, I mean, I would be very, maybe like a tiger dad, you know, you hear the tiger
like
mom.
The disapproving father.
You know, it's like, you know, because, you know, I would expect a lot. And I think it's just
that's the classic Jewish parent, though, isn't it? Isn't that the classic Jewish father?
Yeah. So I would expect a lot, you know, and it's probably unhealthy. And I would be very upset if the child did not reach those goals, and, you know, and go down, you know, a path of, you know, of self-destruction that a lot of children, you know, do in today's age. I'd be extremely upset. And, you know, I don't want to be disappointed.
I think that happens more so due to lack of a fatherly presence, though, than an overbearing one. I think an overbearing father is much better than an absent one.
Maybe it depends on. You have to ask the child first.
You know? It does depend on the demeanor of the child.
Yeah, you know, I don't know.
That's my type A speaking right there.
You know, when you have a child, I'm sure that, you know, the parent kind of like calms down on what is doable with the child. But in today's age, I don't know. I just like, if it was
depends on the parent.
If it was in the 90s, maybe. But now, I don't know. I mean,
yeah. I don't think if I had a kid today, hypothetically, I don't think I would raise them in the United States.
Man, I'm still in the, you know, in the mindset that, you know, my home is the United States, and I would never leave the home. Now, I have, you know, lived in other countries because of work related situations. Yeah. But every single time I was homesick. I mean, I lived in Germany, I lived in Japan, I lived in South Korea. And
fastest internet in the world.
Huh?
South Korea has the fastest internet in the world.
Yeah. Um, and there's something special about, the United States.
The
Now,
Midwest.
yeah, well, maybe, see, my idea here is that I want to buy property around the United States.
Yeah.
In
I mean,
different
I do
areas.
too still. I do too, for sure.
I want to get property around the United States. So,
Yeah.
and the idea is, have a little bit in Montana or North Dakota, South Dakota.
Oh yeah, I would
something
love. Yeah,
around
that'd be
Colorado
awesome in the Mountain West, or like Mountain West and Midwest. I think is most ideal.
Mhm.
And I think I don't know if we discussed this before on camera, but just talking about a national redoubt, right? And for those that don't know, national redoubt is, where the government goes to set up a second government in case the first government falls. So, for example, the Nazis, it would have been the Berghof, right? The Eagle's Nest, or Berghof. I think that's the right one. I might be confusing that with the Wolf's Den, but there's the Eagle's Nest right up in the Alps. I think it was Bavarian Alps, which they never got to because Hitler just decided to stay in Berlin and go down with the curtain falling, I guess. But for maybe a redoubt for your own family, what I would choose would be either the Midwest or the Mountain West. And it's been talked about too. I read it before as like not the Midwest so much, but the Mountain West as a redoubt for Christians and Mormons in particular. That's what I've read. I haven't done a whole lot of research on that, but when you think about it strategically, it's a great spot. And even like the Midwest too, with like the Great Lakes, in fresh water, right? So yeah, and strategically too, when you're in the U.S. is so big, when you're away from the coasts, if we're going to war game a little bit here, China is obviously probably going to come in via California, right? Whereas Russia, they'd come in to New York, and then maybe do a little Anaconda plan, come under Florida. But so that's why the Mountain West and Midwest would be the best spots for that redoubt. If Washington D.C. fell, but also just speaking in terms of my own family, I think that would be cool. Become one with the Mountain West, get used to bears being around. I remember I went to Yellowstone last summer with my cousin, and we only stayed a night, but I remember he was kind of afraid of one of these guys popping up when we went for a walk, and I was teasing him a little bit about that. But yeah, we stopped at a gas station, and it was kind of like a rest stop area, hotel-ish, and I guess the cashier there told him that there was like a mama bear and cubs around that people kind of knew were out and about. So they kind of know where the bears are, just for safety reasons. They know if there's a bear in the area or not. So, and actually the mama bears are, of course, a lot more dangerous because you rarely see a male grizzly, just because they're quite solitary. And even if they do see you, they tend to ignore you. Whereas most lethal encounters are with the mother bears, obviously with, the cubs being there. But on a related note, I saw this video of this guy retreating from I think it was 2 cubs and a mom bear for like, dude, it must have been like 150 yards. Like he was just backing up. And he had his phone while he was taping them. He's like, come on guys, give me a break. And the cubs are like speeding up. So obviously, the mom was like right behind him. He's like, oh my gosh, I just can't stumble. But yeah, Mountain West and Midwest, I think, good places for, I think to get some land for sure.
See, my thinking is that I wanted to like strategically put it in different areas of the United States.
Yeah.
Somewhere in the middle, somewhere on the East Coast, somewhere in Michigan, somewhere in Montana area, somewhere in Colorado or Arizona area. And that, that would be kind of like a good one. It's just a good investment. When I say land, I'm talking about, 10, 15 acres in each of these areas. And, depending on the area, depends on the cost, but and just have the land is a potential area to go if I need to. but also just the idea of having, having it as part of an investment portfolio, you because it'll appreciate. It should
Yeah.
appreciate unless,
Oh yeah.
another
As,
apocalypse happens.
our
But,
president once said, real estate is never a bad investment.
no, I mean, I've been very successful in purchasing property, and getting income from it,
That's
from
awesome,
that
man. That
property.
you're
But this is the first time where I've been,
among the few.
this is the first time that I've been, where it's going to be a farm. I'm
like
setting it up
farm
where
acreage.
yeah, I've already, if I close the deal, I've already have the name.
Yeah.
The name of I'm going to actually have an orchard. It's going to, it's large enough to qualify as a farm area and have an orchard. So the idea is maybe if I close the deal, I'm going to call it Ralph Lauren Orchard.
Yeah.
Okay? Yeah.
Why Ralph Lauren?
So I have this. You have to understand that Ralph Lauren is like, a lot of people don't understand like the history of Ralph Lauren, but Ralph Lauren, was from the Bronx, all right, and he was raised like a poor Jewish kid in New York, all right, and he always was getting these hand-me-downs from his brother. Okay, so this is part of the reason why a lot of the stuff that he has is like worn out, that he tries to design, and so what Ralph Lauren does is that he designs with very, very good cloth, all right, but it's like a barn, all right, and this is where the whole farm thing comes in. The barn's new when you build it, but over time it wears down, and the actual patina and the wood wearing down is what makes the barn. It's useful like clothing, but it's the patina and the wearing down of the barn. That is the ethos of Ralph Lauren. All right. And people do not get that. And he when he's interviewed, a lot of people think he's like the posh guy and everything's nice, and and he's like, the Martha Stewart, but the Americana, male version that's kind of Kennedy-esque-ish. But the thing is that the real ethos, of Ralph Lauren is the patina on a barn. It's the wearing down of something. That is Ralph Lauren. So because of that,
that company
I wanted to call it.
So that's a great name for that. And his company is so like universally, I think, respected and desired by Americans, isn't it? Like when you think about it, like,
well, what he's doing is he's selling a fantasy.
Yeah.
All right. And in a way, and it's multifaceted fantasy. It could be the nautic fantasy. It could be the farm fantasy. It could be the
coasty, the rich coasty.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so there's all these different levels.
Rappers wearing them. Hip hop wears Ralph Lauren. You got rich white kids that wear Ralph Lauren. You got poor kids that love to wear Ralph Lauren when they can. It's like everybody. You're Americana. You want to. You wear. I usually wear Ralph Lauren a lot when I do broadcasts. Actually, I'm wearing my H&M cheap, my black cotton T-shirts that I love. But if I knew we were going to be talking Ralph, I would have worn some of my Ralph.
And so it's just like, so I view things that I view as like very Americana. I had this when I was managing the portfolio at Catholic Charities before I decided to go full time with the whole medical education thing. I had these footballs, old footballs, these antique footballs, and I had custom painted on the. They were actually imported from England, but they were custom painted, and it has Fordham on it, which is where my pre-med stuff was done, and Harvard. Okay, and there's these antique footballs. They got that old leather look, right?
Pigskin, right?
Yeah, and I had some coworkers come into my office, and it was displayed, on one of the tables in my office, and they kept on asking about it, and why did I do that? And I said it's about that American spirit. It's about that American history. It's hard to put it into words, but I tried to explain it through objects. An old football is part of America. That idea of that the kind of the worn down.
Yeah.
I mean, like Iggy Pop. You see his skin, and some of the, the blue jeans and there's an Americana thing about him. You know what I mean? So, there's
well, not really, to be honest. That's a little more the X.
Well, he's from Detroit.
Okay.
He's from the Detroit area.
I know who he is.
He's rock and roll.
Yeah.
And he's just, he's worn down. There's a worn down thing about him. Or the Ralph Lauren thing. Companies that kind of are quintessential to me that are Americana.
Yeah.
Is the Ralph Lauren. I would put Apple also in that category with the Steve Jobs Apple.
Yeah, not now. Now it's like Chinese.
I'm talking about the Steve Jobs Apple.
Yeah.
There was this kind of like California tech, entrepreneurial, really good design thing about Apple that was very Americana.
Right.
So I just like there's
part of that American identity.
I would even put in Bloomberg, the company, into this Americana thing, because it's data aggregation and this idea of just data, all this data stream.
We're talking kind of about a collective American identity right now with Americana and American culture at large. Did you, growing up in Michigan and, being Jewish as well, I don't know if that factors in. I think it does, in my question. Did that affect your ability to identify as an American in any way, would you say, positively or negatively?
Well, the thing is that majority of my upbringing and even adulthood life has been living in a WASP neighborhood. So it's just like, even though being raised Jewish, I had friends that were, Protestants. Majority were Protestants.
Yeah.
I mean, some were Catholic, but majority were, white Anglo-Saxon Protestants, right?
That's the Midwest right there.
Right. So there was this idea that trying to fit in because you're Jewish. All right. And Ralph Lauren talks about this, it's like he felt that he, was kind of ostracized because he was Jewish, So I think every Jew in the United States has that sense of being like not fully fit, not fully feeling accepted because of the anti-Semitism. So that's one real issue. But for me, and I don't know about Ralph Lauren, but for me, my father's family, immigrated to the United States so early in the history of the country in 1790 and fought most of the major wars.
That is really early.
So I have a lot of like real history. I mean, going all the way back to, the administration.
One sec, Paul. I gotta fix this light. It's bothering me. I'm a little overexposed here. Okay, that's better.
Going all the way, to the administration, the first administration of George Washington in 1790. So, I mean, there's a huge history of participating in that American experience. But that's awesome. Is, but there is that counterbalance of not really feeling fitting in because of being Jewish, which is an odd feeling because, I mean, most families, if you ask 100 people, majority of them could not say that that their family lineage, goes back to the, coming into the United States, 1790 or earlier.
I was talking about this with my grandfather, my Norwegian descent grandfather, this week actually, and because I haven't really asked him that much about it. I did go to a family reunion in 2015 with my Nordic side of the family, where I learned more about that history. But I guess I had a great uncle who fought in the Battle of Chickamauga, which unfortunately was a Confederate victory. But thanks to Rosecrans's just kind of indecisiveness, really. But it's kind of another story. So yeah, that's awesome, man. There's definitely a degree of envy I have for that sort of kind of those roots that are quite deep for you in the American way. But again, it's if we look at New York as kind of a microcosm of America, if you don't have to be that deep into American history to be American, right? Whereas like you live in New York for a year, you can say you're a New Yorker.
Well, let me expand on this. I have actually an interesting take on what you're saying.
Yeah.
In terms of New York, some people say you have to be in New York for 10 years, to be a New Yorker or born in New York. And I say that's hogwash. What it takes is you have to feel adversity and you have to persevere through the adversity and not run away. Then you're a New Yorker. So based on my definition, you could be born in New York, not have adversity, and not be a New Yorker. You could be in New York for one day, go through adversity and persevere, stay, then you're a New Yorker. You can turn into a New Yorker in 30 seconds, or you could be born in New York and never have adversity, true adversity where you're questioning, should you stay or should you go? And you're never a New Yorker. So that's my take on the whole New York microcosm thing. Now, so it's about perseverance. That's because New Yorkers are so transient. They come here, they think they're going to make a ton of money. They can't. It's very expensive, and they leave. All right, that's the wave. Out of college, they realize it's a lot harder than they thought and a lot more expensive, and the place isn't as great as people think it is. And then 3 years later or 2 years later, they're out. This pandemic, a lot of people that moved into New York left New York. All right, these are the transients that I'm talking about, the young ones. They went back home. Oh, it's too scary. COVID-19 is too scary. I'm going to leave and go back home. That kind of mentality. Same thing happened with Lehman. Lehman, the job market really, crashed in New York. And people said, oh, this is too hard and I'm leaving New York. They were never New Yorkers. I was the other way around. I left Michigan, finished my MBA in April, and moved to New York in 2008 when the Lehman crash was happening.
Yeah.
So I ran into the fire while everyone else was running away from the fire. So this is kind of like, this dovetails into the larger conversation about perseverance and
American
identity.
Yeah.
It's like you were stating that, well, because of being in New York, it's an amalgamation of individuals, and and that you don't really have to have that much of affinity. You can be an American, going through the right process, and have that identity, that American identity.
Mm-hmm.
But there is something to be said about ones that have strong roots that took 300 years to create. Those roots those tree roots are very deep in the soil of the land. So when I hear things like Fauci is making a weapon and Nancy Pelosi is trying to take away your civil liberties and usher in the Biopatriot Act, and Schumer isn't willing to pick up the fucking phone to listen to me, and for me to explain to him that the situation in New York is a lot worse than they understand in early February. He wasn't willing to pick up the phone. That upsets me. But the thing is that the ones that have the deep roots, they're the ones that are going to sound the alarm. They're the ones that are going to say, I'm not going to let you tread on me and take away my Constitution. Because the roots of the tree, of the family tree, were protecting that Constitution for the last 300 years. Mm. All right. So individuals in New York that say, well, what's the big deal? I can still make my house payment and, buy my, bagel or whatever. They're seeing it. They're seeing it at the surface. Yeah. At the surface level of the soil, just the topsoil, but when you have a tree that grows into the soil and buries itself deep into the soil, it's hard to get that tree out. And it's like, that's the difference. There's a difference. You can be American, you can, be entrepreneuric and but there is something to be said about legacy. And there's something to be said about, when you look at a forest, you got new trees and you got old trees, right? For the forest to be healthy, you need both. Yeah, you can't have all
and you
old trees.
Weed out the invasive species.
Right. Right. Well, that's
that poison oak.
But that's the Nancy Pelosi's out there, Chuck Schumer's. But the thing is,
Andrew
that,
McCabe's.
Yeah, right. But the idea is that you have to have a healthy forest, right? And over time, the young trees will get old and get deeper into the soil and have more of a connection to the land, more, willingness to step forward and have that energy to say no. This is part of the reason why I'm so adamant and I have so much energy about what I'm doing. It's just like, we cannot let our Constitution fall.
I didn't sleep.
And people don't get, people don't get it.
I didn't sleep last night. I was trying to fall asleep, and I saw this video of, somewhat ironically, maybe not, considering our revolutionary history, is a British guy actually, growing some cojones, it sounds like, and speaking out. And he was actually a 35, 36-year-old, and he was saying he'd been quiet this whole time, businessman, in finance or something. And he was saying that, it was because of, he was thinking about in the future, he wants to have children. And he saw, I think it was in Scotland or somewhere, a photo of children in like boxes or cubes. And I saw a photo too, where like they got them all 6 feet apart, in radiuses in each way. I'm like, dude, that's not right, man. Children got to be socialized normally, and that's really unhealthy on several levels. So I guess that was the impetus for him to speak out. And I saw that, and I was like, man, I can't go to sleep right now. And I made my video, and I was just talking about the Titanic and how those 2 hours and 40 minutes from the, when the iceberg hit and to when it foundered, that ship, it was the apex of human achievement architecturally at the moment, especially in, the maritime sphere. And it was no match for Mother Nature, right? And we're kind of seeing that, somewhat on the same level here with the pandemic, more so at the beginning of the pandemic, right, when the virus was a lot more lethal. But you see every part of the human condition in those 2 hours and 40 minutes of the Titanic there, right? The best of humans and the worst of humans, and I think you're seeing that now as well. And one point that I was making was, you had these people in denial on the Titanic. who just were like, the ship can't sink, this country can't, Constitution won't burn, and that's kind of the parallel I was making. And I was like, man, people gotta wake up. You gotta shake them, be like, yo, the ship is sinking right now.
Well,
We hit the iceberg.
here's the problem is that one, they didn't fight for it. They didn't fight. Most of the people that are not paying attention, they haven't served the military. And, it falls in line with that idea, that conversation we were talking about earlier, in the conversation I had with Stefan, is that you have a large section of society where it's just given to them. And when you are just given something, you don't understand the significance of it. You don't appreciate the specialness of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So this is a big part of it. This is where we need the generation to get hardened. They've been softened, and they're not willing. They're not willing to sacrifice. I keep on stating that I think one of the best speeches ever from a president was from JFK. It's not the only one, but it's one of the best ones. And that is, ask not what the country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. Yeah. And, this is exactly the type of spirit that the old trees have, because we realize that the forest wouldn't be around if it wasn't for those individuals thinking that way.
Yeah, that fought in the Battle of Chickamauga or the Revolutionary War, those battles that your ancestors fought. And I was you mentioned the young people, and I was tying that too into the Titanic, as well, as far as I think a lot of these people don't realize, young folks in particular, that they can make a difference in this sphere, but also tying it into what you said about earning something in as opposed to being given it, and feeling entitled to it. You don't really know the value of it. And the reason I asked earlier about being Jewish in Michigan was because I know that there aren't very many Jews in the Midwest. I personally have never met a Jew in Wisconsin who's from Wisconsin. The first ones I ever met were at college, who were from the coast. But just in terms of American identity, it was something I always struggled with growing up, because I was always, the only person, almost always the only person in classroom settings and even athletic settings a lot of times, who wasn't, a WASP male, which, I'm kind of half WASP male in a way. But, when you got a bunch of kids who have never, they don't have friends who are brown or Asian or Arab or whatever, you kind of stick out a bit, even if you don't feel like it, because I'm quite light skinned and I sound like I'm from the Midwest, so it may seem weird for someone who's, maybe not grown up with that experience to fully conceptualize, but I never really felt American a lot of times growing up. And it almost wasn't until I traveled to, a dozen countries or so and met all these different people from around the world, and then came back home and kind of came back to my home in the Midwest in Wisconsin, that I felt more American, and I felt like a true American, combined with studying my own history, and this pandemic too, and realizing how great this country is, right? How this is the greatest country that has ever existed. And going to a place like Uzbekistan, and they think you're Tom Cruise just because you're American, right? They just think you're the coolest guy in the world. And then you go to England and they just think you're shit because you're American, right? It's like, so you get all these different perspectives, right? From different, experiences, and talking to different people across the world. And, I come back and all those kids who, said I wasn't American, they've never even fucking left the state. And I'm like, you have nothing to compare it to. You feel entitled to be an American because you don't know what it's like to talk to a poor Uzbekistan boy who's buying you dinner because he wants you to feel, he wants to show that hospitality for you,
Right.
and until you have those experiences, I think you can't fully appreciate this liberty and this freedom that the Constitution should be giving us. But
So people like you and I
that
that will fall into a minority category, because of either ethnicity or religious affiliation. The United States is not monolithic, but at times we have the perception that it is. All right. So at times, and you're explaining it and what I experienced in Michigan. At times the perception is it's a WASP country, but it's not. It's just the perception. And you, as you said, if you go to another country like Japan or China, that's really monolithic.
Yeah.
That's where you're really monolithic. Right. So, and when you come back, and then you can re-gauge your opinions or your perceptions, and then you start realizing, well, wait a minute, it is a land of immigrants because of just the way the nation populated itself. Yes, it was the Protestants that started it, but the country is not monolithic. And we, in the whole American experience, and the American journey, involves many different people. Now, what happens is that kind of like the liberal side of individuals will state, well, because the United States is a land of immigrants, just open up the floodgates, and it's let America be the smorgasbord for the world. Well, there's a lot of problems doing that. One is that everyone that I've ever known overseas wanted to come to the United States.
They all want to come here.
Yeah. All right. So that's one thing. The whole world, we can't house 9 billion people in the United States. Right? So that's one problem. All right. The other is that opening up the floodgates is a new world order play, because what they want is they don't want countries to control their currency. And we're already having problems with that, with, losing the hegemonic power of the petrodollars. So they want us to not control our currency, and they have a one world currency or a basket of currencies that are not controlled by an individual nation. They don't want borders, because that will allow for free flow of labor and just free flow of goods and labor. And you just do that for a couple generations, and the young ones will just say it was always like that. So why do we need to have borders? See what it's not realizing that it's the boiling frog theory, that eventually you're going to lose nationhood. So it's a question of, do you want nationhood or do you not want nationhood? Nationhood is very American. That's a very American concept, where we do not want to be under any other authority other than ourselves. Representation. It's a representative government. We have a constitutional republic. We have a constitution, and we vote in representatives to do work, not to erode the Constitution, not to
we're not subject to monarchs.
Right. And so when you do the one world order play, or the new world order play, that is very reminiscent to me of a monarchy. That is very reminiscent of me of a technocracy. That's a very reminiscent to me of the idea of you don't have equal representation.
Yeah.
If so they, and the rich, the mega wealthy, will make a ton of money and control and power if we allow for a one world government. What's preventing it from happening is the oaks in the forest, the deep roots that are saying, well, wait a minute here. We have something called the Constitution, and you're trying to burn it. And that's why I keep on saying that these riots with George Floyd and other police brutality, yes, it does happen. But where are the riots in the street for the 166,000 lives lost from COVID-19 because of a rogue Defense Department program? No one is rioting out there saying, Fauci, why do you have patents on very important areas of the genome for coronaviruses and HIV? And it so happens that there's a lot of HIV homology in this virus. And it so happens that it was bioengineered. And it so happens that he funded the gain of function out of his department at Wuhan. Where are the protests stating that, hey, you took my job away, you destroyed my business, you took my family member's life because you were doing things that are against humanity? It's a crime against humanity. That's the type of protests that we need to see. We need to see people out there stating, I do not want decashing. I do not want a surveillance grid on my life in a social scoring. I don't want the drones in the sky, by the police department constantly overseeing the population. I don't want forced vaccines.
We don't want qualified immunity for police officers. They're never going to change their behavior if they're immune,
Right. Well, here's the best way to handle the police officers is say you don't get a guaranteed pension. You put in you'll get a little bump in your salary, but you're going to have to manage your own savings by investing like everybody else. That is through a 401k.
Yeah.
And that the pension days are over.
And that will reduce. Can be executed. You can be jailed for life, and you can go in the electric chair if need be.
Right. So there's too many fringe benefits, and unfortunately they are getting the benefits, but we get the short end of the stick
that we are paying for.
Yeah. So but that's where the protests should be. Talking about the 166,000 people that died from COVID-19 and the erosion of the civil liberties.
And not let them racialize it or genderize it or
well, there's two things.
Demographize it in any way, so they can divide us further, which is what they want.
Well,
this is an American thing. This is not a woman or a male thing or black or white or Jewish or Latino thing. It's all of us.
They don't want us to be protesting about the real issues that I just mentioned. What they're doing is they're trying to smokescreen it with the Biden and Kamala Harris, thing.
Carmela, whatever her name is.
And Carmela, is it Carmela? Right, but Kamala, I hate that woman. I mean, she's such a.
She's a witch, man.
Yeah, no, but the bottom line is this: they whitewash it with the politics that's going on, saying, "Well, she said these nasty things about Biden, but Biden still puts her on the ticket." All right, and that is such chicken shit compared to the constitutional erosion that we're seeing day by day, and Nancy Pelosi trying to put in the stimulus bill. The next stimulus bill, these bank accounts that are going to be set up by the Federal Reserve, which would be the beginnings of the guaranteed income, universal guaranteed income.
Yeah, the UBI.
So we don't want that. I mean, that's going down the road. That's going down the road of socialism.
Yeah.
I mean, that's taking away from the whole idea of the American spirit.
Yeah, it's boiling the frog again. And that's a good analogy that you brought there. And that was another thing too that I wanted to bring allegorically with the Titanic. It was like those people that were in denial. it wasn't until it was too late that they realized, oh shit, the ship is gonna sink. Well, by then the lifeboats are filled, you know.
Well, I mean, you hear what, you hear what Biden is saying. Biden wasn't that left. He's like positioning himself now to be kind of like, he's trying to move towards the Bernie Sanders side of the spectrum. Not as bad, but he's trying to move there. So there's a leftist thing. And
He's
then
trying
now,
to string 3 sentences together.
well, that too. But and then he's got Harris that that's freaking communist, and she's from California, right? Right?
I know she's a cop, or she used to be a cop, right?
I thought, yeah, but I thought she was from the District of California.
I don't know. I don't like her either way, man. You know what's so crazy about that is she was like a former cop or whatever. Is the Democrats are so I don't know. Maybe this is what part of their divide and conquer.
I thought she was a district attorney.
Was she a DA? Okay. Well, I mean it's the same thing, right? They all know each other. The DAs and the judges, they're all hanging out in the same sex parties or whatever they're doing, worshiping Satan.
But I don't trust her because she views. She represents a side of the politic out there that is willing to erode the Constitution for their own benefit. I want politicians, and I mentioned this on my channel with Donald Trump. I want a politician. I want a person that has been put into office to actually do what they say to protect the Constitution when they swear an oath on the Bible. Whichever Bible they use, doesn't matter. But they swear an oath to uphold the Constitution. But what I fear with Harris and Biden, and even Trump to a certain extent, is that they do not uphold that oath, and they continue to erode the Constitution day by day.
What's your biggest fear with Trump?
My biggest fear with Trump right now is that he's going to capitulate and he's going to do forced vaccines, and that he's not paying attention to this BioPatriot, the BioPatriot Act elements, and he's letting it happen. He didn't do anything. He didn't do anything. I mean,
nationwide uprising.
Well, think about
Trump does that.
But think about it. In 2016, but think about it. In 2016, people would have said, well, there's no way that people are going to be demonetized by, on YouTube, and that, their constitutional free speech would be curtailed by the tech companies, but it has. And Trump has it in his power to say, you know what? Google, you're too big. You're going to get trust busted. We're going to have the agencies come in and say that you have monopoly power, and we're going to break you up. It's all under the executive branch. It's not under Congress. He has that power. He doesn't use it. And this is why I feel as though he'll go up to the line, but he won't do the right thing. Because he's compromised. He's compromised. He's either compromised.
By who? By whom?
Well, he's mafia. He's mafia.
Who is his mafia? Do you think
how could you be
Israel?
in?
I think he's compromised to a certain degree by Israel.
Well, I don't know about the Israeli connection, but I think he's mafia because of the casinos.
Yeah.
Now, maybe it's
Italian
Jewish.
mafia?
It could be the Jewish mafia. Who knows?
Could be both. I mean,
Yeah,
there's overlap for sure.
But the thing is that
I think there's Israeli blackmail.
He's got strong ties to Deutsche Bank. So if he's got strong ties to Deutsche Bank, I'm not so sure it's the Jewish connection.
Well, they were laundering all of Jeff's money.
Were they?
Mr. Epstein's money. Yeah,
I don't know.
That was the.
I always thought
Judge
that
Salas. That was Judge Salas. That was the case that she got assigned. Was the Epstein money laundering with Deutsche Bank? 4 days later, an assassin shows up at her door, kills her son, almost kills her husband too. So there's that connection there.
Well, I think he's compromised, and then he's been told that you're going to be JFK'd if you keep on pushing.
That could be it too. Maybe he is pushing that envelope as much as he can do, and maybe he's waiting until, boom, the benevolent night of the law.
Here's the problem. That's the Q theory. That's the X-22 theory.
X-22.
And I'll tell you, they've been always wrong. I mean, I used to be a big fan of X-22. I used to be, you know,
I don't know
somewhat
his stuff that well, to be
you know,
honest.
I used to listen to him all the time, Dave.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, I used to listen to him all the time, every day. And I'll tell you what, it's all bullshit. It's all fucking bullshit. I listened to
And
him for
why do
2
you
years
say
straight
that, Paul?
because everything he predicted doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And it's always wait a little bit longer. He's not doing 5D chess. He's doing
Said every con man ever.
100 D chess. You know, chess. And, you know, and that, you know, Q is right. You know, I don't believe in this Q crumb stuff. I don't believe in Dave and his pontification of that, you know, that Trump really knows what he's doing. No, I don't think Trump is that smart.
You don't think so?
No, he doesn't read. He doesn't read.
Are we sure that he doesn't read?
He's been just Google interviews by Buchanan when he was being interviewed by Buchanan, and Buchanan starts asking, "Well, who's your favorite author?" And he was having a hard time mentioning who his favorite author was, and then he mentioned something, and he does the typical Trump move, and he goes, "He's such a great author," and he goes, "Well, what books did you read from him?" And he couldn't name them. So it was like Tom something.
Tom Sawyer.
No, it wasn't Tom Sawyer. It wasn't Tom Clancy either. It's Tom Willis or something like that. But
oh gosh.
But the thing is, he was caught, and then he uses his his Trumpisms like, well, really, the best book is The Art of the Deal.
He's a master salesman.
You know exactly. He's he's successful to do real estate deals because I've seen some real estate deals, you know, because of the institutional housing development that Catholic Charities was involved in New York City. We had a huge program where we would buy property and then renovate it, and then it was for low-income housing for in New York, and we would get tax credit. But because you're a nonprofit, you can't use the tax credit. So what we did was we created deals with other construction companies that could use the tax credit to help with the construction of the low-income housing, and the benefit to them was the tax credit. So we got the tax credit. We got the tax credit. We gave it to them, with them helping with the construction of the building.
Cost.
Right. So I mean, it was a win-win for everybody. So I've seen, and these structured deals, you know, are complicated. They're complicated. So he's smart in that regard of from a business point of view, structuring these deals. Because you're talking about him doing hundreds, if not, you know, 1,000-unit deals kind of thing. I mean, you know, he's smart in that regard.
Yeah.
But is he intellectual? That's a different story. He's not intellectual. He could be smart, but not intellectual. And there is serious deficiencies in his literary repertoire. You know, and you know, so he's not as smart as people.
If you could pick one,
not a 5D. He's not. I mean, think about how he's playing this whole COVID-19 thing.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, if I was the president of the United States, and I would put myself in a person that's illiterate, it's someone that you know is well versed in many different topics, I could be on that stage, all right, and state very clearly that Fauci, there is too much evidence that states that you were part of the DoD program and that you need to be investigated.
Yeah.
Right? Now, what could have happened was the DoD briefed Trump and stated, you know what, this came from us, and it was further developed at P4, and that we got to keep it hush hush, and that might be happening, and that's why they have Fauci up there. It's because they're trying to keep it hush hush, and they don't want
to leak out. If this was like 18th, 16th, 15th century Italy, we'll be chucking rotten fruits at all of these people and hanging some of them.
Right. I mean, if it was France, I mean, we'd be chopping their heads off. Guilty. But you know,
the reign of terror.
You know,
if they're Robespierre, we'd be trying to kill everybody.
But see, I think that he's missing the perfect play. All this happened under Obama.
Yeah,
he could blame this 100% on Obama.
This disposition matrix, where they have kill lists of American citizens, which I learned this from George. Assassination lists of American citizens. And George is on one of these lists.
Is he
George
really?
is on one of these lists.
Am I on page 3?
Well, I think you can find out if you do the muck rock, and you could just do your own name. I haven't done it yet, but if it doesn't come back, or there's like an error or something, you can double check with George what it says. But you should be able to get your file, and if you can't get your file back, that usually means that you're on some sort of watch list. And George told me that he in fact is.
Well, I'm sure I'm on a watch list.
But
well,
maybe just by virtue of us talking to George, we are. I don't know.
That could be. I think it's a combination of George and Prather.
Yeah.
I think Prather was
he's former intelligence.
I think Prather was for me, everything started going to hell on my channel right after I talked to Prather.
He lost his radio show. Did you see?
I know. I interviewed him right after.
Yeah.
And he talked about it. I'm going to have him back on the show. He's talking about an October surprise. Okay. I don't know exactly what. I mean, is he talking domestic, or is he talking international, or both? It would surprise me that there would be an October surprise with China.
Yeah.
With Taiwan.
Well, George is saying that the lethal bioweapon is coming on the 19th, didn't he? On October 19th, I think it was, he's saying. Because, maybe this is just the more kind of,
well, the lethal bioweapon might be the vaccine.
Yeah. I mean, who knows? That could be. I mean, we got the blatantly testing these vaccines, which were created in the West, on Africans, which nobody seems to really care that whole much about. And we haven't even brought up.
Well, Africa doesn't have that many cases.
Well, I mean,
why are they doing it?
I think they're trying to cull Africans. They're trying to cull black people. That's what I think. But we didn't even bring up. I didn't bring it up. I mentioned it right before the show. When we're backstage. Belarus lost internet for 3 days. Their government shut down internet for the whole country amidst protests and potential rioting that was going on. So, they were in the dark for 3 days, not able to contact with anybody. And I didn't know about this till shortly before I spoke with you, actually. And this morning when we started chatting, and that's scary, man. That is really scary when they're turning off the internet for people. Because I think we should practically, like me and you, Paul, and this network we got going, we got to figure out a contingency plan in case they shut off our internet. Mm-hmm. I think that's something we got to think about.
Well, there's different levels of shutting off the internet. One is deplatforming you on a social media platform like Facebook or YouTube, which is happening now.
Yeah, that's at the micro.
Yeah, micro right. Level. The next level is knocking down your website, shutting down your website. Then the next level would be, turning off your connection, at your house.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have, a pipeline to it, or, through your cell phone, shutting down your cell phone. So there's different levels of shutting you down from the internet. It's a problem. I think a lot of people don't realize, and I found out about this when I was walking to work during the Obama administration. I was always taking the train to Grand Central, and I'd walk from Grand Central to Catholic Charities up First Avenue, and I was always passing the UN building every morning. And I was listening to, different podcasts, NPR, and it was a podcast from NPR, and they were talking about the Obama administration relinquishing the IP addressing power of the United States and giving it to another body, a governing body that's run under the UN.
And they already did this, didn't they?
Yeah, they already did it during his administration. And so we no longer have that power. No, neither do I. This is just a slow boiling frog move for control. So here's the idea. It's that you can have a governing power that's not under the authority of the United States turn you off. And what recourse do you have as an American citizen about your civil liberties?
Yeah.
Here's the problem.
When you got
There's the problem about representation.
Tedros controlling your internet.
Right.
or Tedros, whatever his name is, who's a
Right.
former communist, by the way, in Ethiopia. He's part of the Ethiopian Liberation Front.
Right. And there were people in New York that thought that I was part of that whole cabal, and that, you know, that I'm a shill for the New World Order. Can you believe that crap? At the very beginning,
I got
I'm a
called a
shill for the New
communist
World.
shill because I was criticizing police brutality, so that made me a communist shill, I guess.
No, it's people
It's
are
the double think, or not the double think, the binary thinking, I call
right,
it, the light
right,
switch thinking, you know?
right,
Like
it's
you
right,
criticize police, you're a communist shill.
right.
You
It's
criticize Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, you're a neo-fascist.
Kamala. I keep on Carmela. All right,
Let's
Kamala.
just call her
Kamala.
Caramel.
Kamala.
Caramel.
I don't know, but I just Harris is such a bitch. Just such a bitch.
Dude, I don't trust. I almost trust Pelosi more than I trust her, man. Because Pelosi.
Well, at least you know where Pelosi's coming from.
Yeah,
She's just a communist. I mean, you know, she's got a tattooed on her forehead, and she's just
Yeah.
like, she will screw you any way she can, and she doesn't. She can't tell the difference. I mean, at the very beginning of the administration, she kept on calling Trump Bush because she hated Bush so much because he was a Republican, and any Republican is, you know. So she's drunk on power. She's drunk on power.
Dude, this is another thing too, is that it doesn't seem to bother Democrats. By and large, again, I haven't spoken with a lot of them, but it's just like these people have been in power for so long, and we're getting mad at presidents who come and go after 4 years. When Biden and Pelosi, the witch who loves ice cream, you know, these ice cream lovers, and Biden, you know, they've been in, you know, in politics in their positions of authority and power for 30 years or longer.
Mm-hmm.
And we're concerned about the president. Like,
right,
no,
exactly.
we gotta be tying up nooses.
Well, my
Eric Weinstein said it's time for heads on spikes. He said this months ago.
Well, I've been trying to, I would say that the crisis that we're going in right now, where you've lost wealth and health and constitutional freedoms, if you don't protest on this, what the hell would you protest?
Right.
You know,
by the time you get to the point where you realize, oh yeah, it's too late, man. Too late.
It's almost too late.
Night of the long knives.
It's almost too late. They're doing, as Mike Adams says, they're getting ready for the kill shot. They are getting ready to kill us. And if anyone has, you know, ever gone hunting, they understand what a kill shot is, you know, and they, you know, you stalk the animal, you wait, they get closer, bam. This is what's happening to the American public.
And they want to get that timing right, because they're only going to get one shot, you know. You mistime that trigger pull when the animal's gone.
Right. So I don't think Biden and Harris are going to win the general election. I think Trump still will win the general election.
You think it's going to be a landslide?
It depends on what happens in October.
Yeah.
What type of surprise it is, and what is the health state of the country. I'm concerned, very, very concerned, if we don't go to the ballot box, what sort of corruption will take place in mail voting. Because I think that the mail-in ballot is just rampant for corruption. And I'll tell you,
the Democrats want.
The Democrats, they're licking their chops.
Mail-in voting.
Yep, they're licking their chops, and they're saying, you know what? We got enough dead people that are still registered voters to be able to swing the election in every single county.
Well, apparently our government gave billions of dollars in aid in what do you call it, in that, you know, the what's it, the $600 or whatever, billions to dead people. That's what I read. I think it was last month. It's just idiotic, man. It's just, you know, I read this tweet today that only the government could lose money while selling drugs.
Well, you know, I don't think Biden is going to win. I really don't. And most
you think they're going to do a bait and switch and keep Kamala in and then put somebody else in for Biden? I could see it as a potentiality, but I don't know. Like,
No, I mean, I think that he'll make it through the election physically. He's not going to die from a heart attack or, I mean, I think he'll make it through the election. I just think he'll do so poorly during the debates because he just doesn't think very well anymore.
yeah,
That people are going to say, I'm going to stick. Normally people vote for the incumbent anyways.
the incumbent. Yeah.
The only problem is that they don't usually do it when there's a recession. But this is not your normal recession. This was an orchestrated recession.
Yeah. Is a planned recession.
Right. And this is much deeper. This is CCP. This is a virus. This is, so I think that people will give the benefit of the doubt to Trump and just say, you know what, I would rather go through the crisis. This crisis is very much like a war. And almost no one switches presidents in a war.
Yeah.
So there's strong evidence to suggest that Trump will win. But will it be a landslide? I think it really is left to be seen in October. What kind of surprise is going to take place and how does he react to it? And how sick are individuals? Can they get to the ballot box? It's going to be close, but I think that Trump will win. I do think that, but that doesn't mean that doesn't mean that we're going to get what we're looking for, because Trump didn't stand up for the First Amendment. Trump backed down on the Second Amendment and protecting those freedoms. And I am not so sure that he's not going to push for forced vaccines. Or, this is the key point, the federal government doesn't need to force it. They just have to allow corporations to say, our corporate attorney and HR department are going to force you to have a vaccine. And if you don't, you are no longer employed. So the federal government doesn't have to have a policy.
Yeah. It could be a corporatized, privatized enforcement.
Right. That's my worry. And that Trump is not going to step up to the plate and say, you do that. And I have a department called the IRS, right? And that IRS will pull your business tax ID. You will no longer have that if you do that. So your company is bankrupt, in effect. You cannot do any business. So do you really want to go down that road? That's the kind of president that I'm looking for.
Yeah,
that's the kind of president that I
would. In the hole,
though.
He might have some aces in the hole.
Well, that goes back to the X-22 and the Q crap. I just don't see when Trump is supposed to do the right thing. When everyone's thinking he's going to do it, he doesn't.
Yeah.
Name one time where he's actually executed on doing the right thing. He says something, but he always ends up doing it half-heartedly. The only thing that he's really pushed that, really well on is that the building the wall and defunding the WHO and hard negotiations with China, the hard negotiations with China and the trade and stopping TPP. He did that.
And the NATO defunding too, he's pretty serious about. Or was that just
Well, I mean, did he actually defund it, or did he just talk about
I actually don't know. I know
I don't
he
think
was
he
talking
defunded
about
it.
it.
I don't think he defunded it. He talked about it. That's my point. There's a lot of talk and no walk.
But he is, as far as I can tell, anti-war, wouldn't you say?
I don't think he wants a war, and I don't want a president that wants war.
That's what I'm saying, man.
I mean, you're going to be a Hillary Clinton wanted war. That was the problem.
Yeah, dude, she's a warmonger through and through. Way even more than Bill. And dude, if you're going to be a simple Simon single issue voter, pick war and just look at it that way. Who's going to want war? Donald Trump or Kamala Harris and Joe Biden and the Democrats? That's a no-brainer.
Right.
So if you want to vote for war, go ahead. Be my guest, but just know what you're doing before you do it.
I think Trump has been trying to tiptoe around the neocons that are around him.
Oh yeah,
that have been trying for him to push the trigger, to pull the trigger.
Yeah, he's
especially in
going to fight
Iran.
off people on both sides for sure. Oh yeah, with Iran, and I
Mm.
mean, I'm sure he's got the Israeli influence too that want him, to
There's
go
a
to
lot of
war.
stress on him. I
Oh yeah,
understand there's a
oh
lot of
yeah,
stress on him. But the thing is that he needs to step up to the plate
yeah,
and start to realize that every time you give a little bit of wiggle room for the Democrats, they'll try to hang you. And they're just trying to buy time and eat out the clock. So let's say they lose. Let's say the Democrats lose the presidency, and they lose the Senate. All right, but still maintain the House. They're going to still be dragging their feet, installing, and Trump needs to be presidential and start moving forward and protecting that Constitution. He doesn't need Congress's approval to protect the civil liberties of the Constitution. He just has to use his power under the agencies that are under the executive branch to prevent the things that we're worried about. He can be much more forceful with the police, municipalities, and talk on the bully pulpit about a certain level of defunding of the police force, especially when it comes to their pensions and the militarization of their equipment.
Demilitarize.
Yeah, to demilitarize the police. That's a good term. We need a demilitarization of the police. That definitely, for sure. But I think we should take it one step further and defund their pension program.
Defund their pensions and get rid of any qualified immunity. People do things because they know they can get away with them. You look at the billionaire class and what they try to, what they do get away with trafficking and whatnot. They do that because they know they can't, they're not going to get in trouble. Likewise with the police, these people enjoy violence. A lot of them, maybe even most of them. I hesitate to say all of them. Just making blanket definitive statements like that outside of laws of physics and mathematical laws. I always hesitate to do, but I would say almost definitively, most of these people enjoy violence on some level, or they would not have signed up for this job.
Well, it's that feeding of the beast that we talked about earlier, a couple of shows ago.
Yeah.
It's like you got these people that are, they are a part of this beast, metaphysical thing. Some of them are part of the intestines. Some of them are the actual part of the limbs. Some of them are the brain.
The amygdala.
Yeah, but they are a manifestation of a beast, and the beast needs war and hate, destruction, and fear and all the stuff that's going on. And you see it in their eyes, you see it in their demeanor. I mean, Pelosi is like, there is hate in her. There's strong hate. This person is not, and this idea of capitulating and kneeling down to the ground and covering the face and not standing up for the national anthem. These are all elements of the beast to have us capitulate, to have us, not, stand up tall and be more entrepreneurial and more, more individualistic.
You talk about the beast. There's this great book, The Octopus of Global Control, and Charlie Robinson, I did an interview with him. He picked the octopus because it's a highly intelligent creature that will, depending on what is best for the octopus at the time, it'll fight or it'll run away. It'll camouflage or it'll stick you with its its pincer or its beak, or maybe it'll squirt ink and disappear. Camouflage in a variety of ways. So whatever it's going to do that benefits it, fight, hide, run, flee, maybe it uses its intelligence, maybe it does some stealing, some trafficking, some blackmailing, whatever is going to benefit it the most. It's almost like in a Zen way going to do that, not necessarily the most overt power action. Maybe doing the soft power thing, playing the long game if that's necessary.
The way that, I come from the perspective that if you have an ethic, that if you try to make the world a better place, Now that could be relative, I understand that. But, to try to make the world peaceful, to try to make the world, it's more about individualism instead of this collectivism, then there will be better karma with those individuals than the ones that are on the side of the beast, that are all about egoism and trying to take from people, not to, they're, so I find this is almost like, it's not just about New World Order. This is like the battle of our soul, the soul of the nation, the soul of our souls. This is like biblical, what's going on here. All right. And it's manifested in the physical world, but it's a very metaphysical thing that's happening. And I think people that are a little bit more spiritual or a little bit more psychic or a little bit more religious, they are more sensitive to this. They understand what I'm saying. I'm not putting it in the right words, but they feel what I'm talking about, that we're battling a beast. We're battling this metaphysical thing that has manifested itself in our realm, in the three-dimensional world that we live in, and that we're fighting this thing. Now, the thing is that let's not pretend that Trump is on the good side. Trump is on the fence.
He's a sociopath.
He's on the fence. He's not good or bad. It's what is it in it for him at that moment in time.
You don't think there's any good in him, or he's leaning more one way than the other?
If he benefits being good, he'll be good. If he benefits,
so you think he's a total sociopath?
Well, I wouldn't say total sociopath. I mean, I would put sociopath, like Jeffrey Dahmer as a sociopath, or
that's psychopathy, I would say.
No,
sadism.
I'm not really sure what the big differences are.
Dude, that's what I'm saying. It's no matter like what source you go to, you almost get a different definition of what sociopathy and psychopathy is. I mean, whatever it is, psychopaths make up 1% of the population, sociopaths make up about 4%. But in CEOs, get to the top of a corporation, they're almost all sociopaths. At least.
So let's say Machiavellian, thinking would fall into sociopathy.
Yeah, that's they have this thing called the dark triad. I don't know if you've heard of it. So it's Machiavellianism, narcissism, and can't remember what the other one is. Is it sociopathy? Yeah, I think that's it. It's kind of funny. They've done studies, and women, by hook or by crook, tend to be more attracted to men who have, one or two or three of the dark triad.
I think that's probably because it's more chance of being able to accrete material or resources for survival. So it's a natural selection thing.
Yeah, I don't think it says anything about the morality of
like, for example, a lot of it, for example, a lot of people think that being tall is better. All right, but
how tall are you, Paul?
But 5'7". So all right. So but the thing is that,
are you really?
Yeah. So the thing is this. If someone is like really tall, the Navy SEALs don't want you because you're going to get picked off on the battlefield.
Not necessarily.
When you had the rats during Vietnam,
they were all short.
Yeah, well, that's my point here. That's my point is that it depends on the environment that you're in, and that what makes that particular trait survivable.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it's been through natural selection that I think with women is that, well, when there was a feast and famine kind of situation, you were probably better off with someone that was a little bit more Machiavellian.
Yeah.
All right. Now, if you're living in a more, stabilized society where it's not feast and famine, and it's about morality, it's about being able to trust people. If you make a business deal and you trust them, then you'll do other business deals. But if the business deal goes bad, because of a business partner cheating or stealing from you, then that causes disharmony in that environment. So the Machiavellian perspective doesn't work well in that kind of environment. But if you're in a hunting and gathering society, then it may. So it just depends on the situation. So I think that the ones that are gravitating to the beast are, looking at it as like, what is it in for me? I don't care about the Constitution. That's just history and all this, and, yeah, right. And then you have the others on the side. It's like, well, wait a minute. There is something about honor and respect and duty.
Yeah.
People that are Machiavellian, they don't have honor and duty. They only have, what is it in for me at this moment in time? Can I get away with it? That's not honor and duty. So people that have honor and duty, when the going gets tough, they're around. Like, for example, you've always heard the phrase, or you've always heard people say, you have all these friends, and then all of a sudden something catastrophic happens to you. Some major event happens in your life, and all those friends that you thought were going to be around are not around, and it's this kind of like stranger or tangential friend that you never thought was like a strong friend ends up being there for you.
Yeah.
Right. That's about honor and duty.
Yeah. You know what's the worst though is when like your blood doesn't show up for you, or who you thought it's just the worst.
Mm-hmm.
But I do find that though. It's like even like something as petty as social media following. This is not as deep as what you're referring to, but like, I've lost so many followers since the start of this pandemic, particularly on Instagram, because that's easy to track. Like people I've known since middle school who I played soccer with like for years have unfollowed me and ghosted me on social media.
Is that because they just fall on the spectrum of liberalism? Or?
That's a good question. You never really know what somebody's thinking. Robert Greene says he would say that's a very interesting question, but in the game of power, it doesn't matter. But for me, it's like I always want to know why, so it's kind of hard to turn that off, right? And I think you're the same, Paul. And I have asked some of them. For example, one of my best friends, his sister unfollowed me, I think this week or last week. I don't know. I have this app that lets me know. I checked it recently, and I was like, oh, lost some more. And I asked her, I was like, why did you unfollow me? And she's like, oh, I just don't want to see political stuff on my timeline. And she's younger. She's like, I don't even know, like 4 or 5 or 6 years younger than me. I'm not really sure, but
well, the thing is that's the people that you want to really start engaging, because they are being brainwashed. They're the ones that are being brainwashed.
Yeah, and like I had my cousin just unfollowed me. Again, it's probably because of. I mean, I know it is. It's because of the stuff I'm posting, but it's like, look, I mean, this is my truth. This is what I see as reality. This is what I see as the truth. And if you don't even want to discuss that with me, like, there's not a whole lot I can do. But I think on the other hand, and tying into what you said too about the unexpected person, there are people who have been following me for a while and are interacting with me more that I never would have guessed would have been, a resident with the stuff that I am posting now, and the truth that that I am posting, what I am, revealing to be what I think is reality. So, there's that, the other side of that too, where it's like, oh, well, I'm connecting with people, maybe I'm losing some friends, acquaintances is probably a better term, but I'm gaining new acquaintances, and maybe they'll turn into friendships.
Well, I think what will happen is that because if you stay true to your ethic, that it may be rough through the process, some duration of the process, but eventually you persevere and the truth comes out because you were true to your ethic. All right. And once the truth comes out, people will go, oh my God, he was right. And they come back. So it's kind of like the fair weather friend, the fair weather, fan kind of thing.
Yeah.
But, right now it's stormy weather. So they're hiding.
I'm all alone.
Yeah. But the bottom line is you're not alone. And there's, there are people that are supporting you and trying to help you. And they're, on the same wavelength. Unfortunately, there's not enough of us out there that, you know, are trying to stay true to our ethic, our core ethic. It's not easy, but the thing is that by perseverance and collectively working together, we will prevail. There's no doubt in my mind on that. The question is that how long do we have to endure? I don't know. You know, George Washington, when he was fighting the British, he didn't know how long he had to, you know, do hit and runs, you know,
fight on Christmas Day. Christmas Day, he's going to fight.
Right.
He's taking it to him on Christmas, you know?
Right. You know,
and that's the mentality we got to have too. You know, it's like Sunday morning, Saturday morning, Friday night, they're going out for drinks. We're ambushing them at the bar.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
And they kill them and then drink their beer. Right? you know, that's the American way. You know, but you know, here's
as long as it's American beer.
Right. You know, so we just got to persevere. We just got to keep on moving forward and just, you know, keep on, you know, hitting home what the main points are, and not to get bogged down in the smoke screen. And right now, this Biden Harris is a smoke screen. It doesn't matter. This whole general election, it really doesn't matter, because there is such a larger play. They want us to divert our attention. The mainstream media wants to divert our attention. And I know this because of what happened when I was going to be interviewed by the Chinese news network out of Washington, D.C.
Really? Yeah. You did an interview with them?
No, they canceled.
Oh, why did they cancel?
Well, they canceled because that was the first week. The week that they were coming in to see me was the week that the first case was confirmed in New York. So they canceled the trip.
Oh, they were going to do an in-person one.
Yeah.
Dang. That's CCN, I think it's called, right? Chinese Corporation Network or whatever.
CCTV or something. I forgot the name of it.
No, yeah, you're right.
CCGN or something.
CCTV or CC.
Yeah, something like that. So they were going to interview me, and that week that they were supposed to come in was the first case that was confirmed in New York City. So they canceled. But not only that, they were trying to do a hit piece. It was self-evident they were trying to do a hit piece.
Yeah.
So you know, so maybe it was better.
It was like the Wiley, this rapper, grime rapper Wiley from the UK. I don't know if you saw this, but he went on his Instagram and Twitter, kind of ranting against. Choose my words carefully here. Let's say Zionists, powerful Zionists, and particularly in the music industry. And he got basically called an anti-Semite by all this, and he got his Twitter deactivated, eliminated, terminated. He got his Instagram terminated, and I think he got his YouTube terminated as well. And then Sky News did a piece, and I think they interviewed him for 45 minutes, and all they released was 5 minutes of just obviously edited. Like, you know, there's like he's saying something, then mid-sentence they edit it. And it's like, you know, it has like majority dislikes. You know, people are, you know, they're wisening up to this.
If I was to do an interview with any major outlet, I would have it recorded, and that recording would be released on my own channels.
Yeah.
So, you know, you
bring your phone and like
unedited, unvarnished version versus their edited version. So you'd understand exactly what happened. You know, but that's the only way to play these people, because that's what they did to George Webb. CNN was trying to railroad him. They were trying to spin him out. Yeah, they were trying to spin him in a certain way that he was some conspiracy guy like Alex Jones. And I'm telling you, George's got a lot of good information, and you know, he's over the target. And you know, if you're over the target, you know, you start getting the flack. And you know,
especially when you're the tail gunner like George is.
Well, you know, at times he's the tail gunner, and at times he's the major bombardier. You know,
he's got like his own squadron of Georges. You know, just the George clones doing tail gunning. And
you know, he's doing a lot, but you know, but I find it a privilege, honestly, to have met people like you and George and Stefan and Mike Adams and, and others, large channels and small channels. We're all working together to try to get to the truth. And the common theme is this: we're trying to save the country. We're trying to help people. We're trying to maintain our constitutional freedoms. We're getting to the bottom of what is happening in America. And you have these people out there, one, they're trying to censor us or demonetize us or try to deplatform us. And then you have the others, the trolls, that are part of the problem.
Yeah.
Don't they realize that we are trying to save the country, and that if they don't help us, they are going to lose their freedoms?
They're going to be enslaved.
Yeah. And it's shocking to me on how brainwashed these individuals are. It's just, they think it's like a WWF wrestling match, or this is all game, fun and games. It's not. This is very, very serious. Very
it's like
serious.
in middle school and elementary school when like the whole class gets rewarded if like everybody behaves, but there's always like those 2 or 3 dipshits that are like, they just have to make everybody laugh, and get that momentary like, oh yes, I made them laugh, oh good job, and now we just lost the pizza party that we were gonna have on Friday.
Right.
But here it's like amplified to 300 million people are going to pay the price,
Yeah, right. And
the pizza party is we get to keep the Constitution and have it actually enforced.
Right.
And enforce it, both ways, both in the positive of we get our rights, and in the negative of our rights cannot be infringed upon by the police state, by judges, by these corrupt politicians.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
But
we need more people out there. We need more people out there that go, you know what? That 166,000 individuals that died, and it's climbing. For COVID-19 disease, go out there and start protesting against the erosion of our civil liberties. That is what. And that doesn't mean go and break down a window of a store and steal a TV like they were doing for the BLM protests. I'm saying civil disobedience, but be loud and to be heard and to be organized and decentralized across the nation and state these things, that we will not allow this to happen. And that when you're loud enough, then when these corporations say, you have to take your vaccine or you can't work here, then there is enough of a voice out there that the politicians will say, wait a minute here, you don't want to piss off these guys because they may affect our run for Congress next term. So we're going to write a law that states that you can't do this, corporations. See, I want not so much the federal government stating you have to take the vaccine, because they won't need to. They'll use the proxy through the corporations. I want the government to state you can't force a vaccine. That's a different way to attack this problem. You follow me?
Yeah.
That the government needs to state that patient autonomy and the physician-patient relationship needs to be held with respect and held to to what it's supposed to be.
And it's already been infringed upon with these these pharmacists taking that power away in preventing those and getting to patients. That's just that's an infringement of rights on several levels.
Well, what it is it's almost like the problems that we have with the judges, on the bench. Do your job.
Judges have too much power, man, in my opinion. I don't know what you think. I just think they have too much power in our system. I don't know if we can
unfortunately
get
you have
a council.
Here's the problem is that you have too many judges that are activist judges.
Yeah.
And they're not supposed to be activist judges. And unfortunately, there's not enough accountability. That if you're an activist judge, to get them off the bench and to overturn, the problem with the court system is that it's so long. It's so long to solve a problem.
Yeah.
So if the corporation forces you to have a vaccine, you could sue them. You probably could win in court saying that you couldn't force me to have that. But the thing is, you already lost your home because you know it took 2-3 years to get it through the court system.
And all that money pretty much went to lawyers on both sides.
Right. See, this is why I complain, you know, about the lawyers and to Farmer Jones, you know, in general. You know, it's just like, well, wait a minute. Where are the lawyers that are stating that, hey, you are infringing on our constitutional freedoms and you should be doing this pro bono? That don't say that you're waiting to, you know, to get, you know, find, you know, the great client that can, you know, to afford the case.
Nazis are not going to pay you. Right. They're going to pay you by not executing you. That's how they're going to pay you. Right. But, you know, you said we got to get the word out. We do have to reach a critical mass because there's something to be said for, I brought up the Nazis. They ran the entire country of Norway with 700 Germans. And the rest were collaborators, you know? So it's so important that we, you know, it might even not even be 50%. It might be closer to 60%.
Well, it's the same thing with what was going on in Russia. You didn't need that many Russian police. You just had to have enough neighbors willing to tattletale on the other neighbor.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's kind of scary how little collaborators you need to control a lot of people.
See, this is where the chaos theory kicks in. All right. We have
this is your expertise.
Right. I want to read your, you got to like
monetize all your books there. Paul, a little disappointed, but I'm going to buy one of them.
Well, I've always monetized all my books. I also have a free version out there.
Oh, I don't know, you reorganized your website though, didn't you? Because I know you had some articles or journals that you wrote before, but you did reorganize.
No. What I have is that I have all my books on the website where they can, you know, download and have it either in Kindle or iBooks or whatever, or Nook. Now, so they can purchase the books on Amazon. They can purchase the books on my website, or they can just go to ssrn.com and just read the stuff for free. Okay. I've always said that.
I might do that.
You know, just all you got to do is just go to SSRN and just type in Cottrell, and you get everything that I've ever published for free.
I'll link that in my descriptions if people want
to check it out. It's everything's for free.
I'm going to read some of your stuff.
You know, a lot of the stuff is, you know, mathematical, you know, very mathy, you know, type stuff that's not very interesting unless you're into like coding or, you know, mathematical finance kind of stuff. But the two books, about chaos. But the two books, well, that was a very mathy book. But the two books that are very, you know, I think a little bit more accessible to the average person is Market Armor. It talks about my market philosophy. And part of that has the chaos theory and the hypercube way of looking at the market. And then the other one is the artificial intelligence book that, you know, talks about the singularity and where mankind is going with transhumanism and the problems of it. The other books, you know, some of it's very mathy, some of it, you know, has a little bit of economic history in it. So the chaos theory and economic emergence, that is, you know, that's going on the premise that you had this debate between Keynes and Hayek, where do you have intervention or you don't have intervention? All right, it's very monolithic.
Free markets.
Yeah, right. So, you know, with the central banking system, so it's, you know, so it's very monolithic.
So one was a Rothschild and one wasn't.
Well, they probably were both Rothschilds, and they were just pinned against each other to fight each other. But the thing is that you got Hayek. That's, you know, that was the Austrian school of thought, where it's like you need basically laissez-faire capitalism. You know, that the markets need to be punished if they do something wrong. And then Keynes was saying in extreme, and that was the key point, in extreme situations, you need to intervene and be lender of last resort.
What do you think, Paul?
Well, I got to mention one other thing before I can mention that.
Okay.
So the problem is that the Keynesianism was not Keynes. Keynes did not fall in line with what Keynesianism is today. Keynes kept on saying, you only do this in extreme emergencies. Well, what happened is right after the war for England, they used monetary policy to help with the rebuilding effort by just manipulating currency, manipulating their monetary base.
And what did Germany do, Paul?
Right. So what happened was it ushered in. So there was this combination of Keynesianism and socialism.
Yeah.
All right. That creeped in, and that's the kind of the monetary system that we have today. Now, economic chaos theory and economic emergence is what it falls under this idea of, when you're applying it to central banking policy, is economic pragmatism. And economic pragmatism is this: you cannot allow for Keynesianism to take hold, because you're going to lose the entrepreneurial spirit. You're going to lose that capitalism. But you can't have laissez-faire capitalism, because you're going to have large lobbying powers take hold and be able to write laws in place where it continues down the road of the rich get richer and the poor get poorer.
That's kind of where we are right now.
Right. So, but you got to look at it from the middle ground. If you notice in how I think, I'm always trying to think the middle ground. It's pragmatism. So I kind of like, I'm trying to coin like almost a new type of philosophical thinking. And that's pragmatism. What is it? It's not relativism. Relativism is like, well, from one perspective, it's true. Everything is all truth, because it's based on perspective. Well, no, pragmatism would state that terrorists are really, really bad.
No matter what.
No matter what. And that because of that, it causes a systemic risk, and therefore have to be eliminated. Same thing in economics. If you are building something that is causing systemic risk, it needs to be eliminated. So through economic pragmatism, you need to trust bust the banks. So this economic emergence in that book, the part of
what was the other guy's name? Not Keynes, but the other guy?
Hayek.
When did he write this?
They lived during the same period of time. They fought each other in the publications.
This is in the 20th century?
This is early 1900s. This is around the time period where they were really writing this all up. It was the 1920s, 30s, and 40s.
Do you think Hayek foresaw this, like this kind of crony capitalism, shall we say?
Oh yeah. I mean, he saw it, but I mean, the thing is that he came from the standpoint that don't intervene in the markets, and therefore it will be better off long term. Okay. I don't believe that. I don't believe that, because in certain industries you need to backstop, because if it takes 50 years to make an industry, but then you have a systemic situation, all right, that destroys an industry. Mm-hmm. If you just let laissez-faire capitalism happen, then that whole industry could be completely washed away, and you may need that industry for a war effort later down the road.
I guess I meant Keynes. I remember reading about Keynes in high school. I took AP Macro, and I just didn't know what this dude was on about. I don't think I was patient enough, though, ADHD wise, to sit down with it. I should have started. I think you should always start with micro, but
Keynes saw the problems of over-reliance of the central banking system. That's why he stated that you only do it during extreme situations. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, the socialists took his recommendations of central banking and supercharged it and allowed ran with it, where it was, you use it at every single thing. Mm-hmm. And what happens is you start, to manipulate the currency, and what happened,
towards
what
communism.
basically what happened was, is you got, political economics now, where, you're merging politics and economics together.
Yeah,
And when you do that, you have,
that's dangerous.
you have this Keynesianism that Keynes did not agree with. That's the thing. Is that the people that practice Keynesianism today is not following what Keynes recommended. But I wrote in the book about economic pragmatism, and that you have to look at the systemic risk of something. And that is kind of like the black swan that's starting to emerge, or that dragon king. And depending on what the systemic risk is, depends on what the tool you should use. So if the systemic risk is such that you need to trust bust, all right, then you trust bust. If the systemic risk is such that you need to intervene in the markets to calm the markets, like what Keynes was suggesting, then you need to use that tool. So you don't want to pigeonhole yourself and say, I'm only going to use a hammer or only use a screwdriver. All right. So that's that. So part of that book is with economic emergence is that there's a systemic risk that comes out of these social systems that seems chaotic.
Yeah.
And to
inherent
manage
in both of them, but in a different way.
And then you manage it through pragmatism.
Pragmatism by Dr. Paul Cottrell, people.
So that's what the book is basically about. But I mean, there's a lot of math in it, and but it's the big theme is social systems can go into a chaotic attraction. Some of it's deterministic chaos, some of it's indeterministic chaos. And you have to use pragmatism, economic pragmatism, if you're talking about it in a financial or economic sense, to solve the problem, instead of being so focused on one type of economic theory.
Dogmatically.
So I think you could apply it to a lot of different things. You could apply it to let's say medicine. You could say, well, you have a patient that is having problems and it's not responding to traditional therapies. All right. Well, one school of thought would be the allopathic school of thought. The other would be the homeopathic school of thought, or a naturopathic. So to be a medical pragmatist, it would be, what can I take from both worlds to be able to solve the problem?
Yeah.
That's
for that person in particular, right? If you want to individualize it as well.
Right. But most people would say only homeopathy or only allopathic.
That light switch again. Team light switch over there. Showing up again.
So it's like what I was trying to do is trying to deconstruct relativism.
And trying to get a framework for the best of both worlds.
Right.
Maybe to
Which
put
I
it in layman's terms.
Right. And I kept on using the term being pragmatic or pragmatism.
Okay. I'm going to steal that and sell it one day, Paul. Just to let you know.
That's all right. That's all right. Because I don't believe in relativism, because what happens is to the extreme, you build in systemic risk. Because what happens is that one of the parties within that relativism will lead and start to take away the power of the others.
Yeah. Yeah, I think relativism works most of the time to a certain degree. Again, contextually speaking.
It depends on the number of nodes and the power of each of the nodes. So if one has 80% of the power, and there's 9 others that have an equal level of power, but they're all very weak, then your relativism is systemic, because you have 80% power in one node. Relativism works if all the nodes are relatively in harmony. And this is part of the reason why societies work really well at about 150 people, where the distribution of power is relatively equal. But once you get to a certain level, then you start to have problems.
That's our kind of relationship max too. I read as about 150.
That's the point that I'm making. Is that the relationship max is there? So you have so relativism. Because if you take relativism to the extreme, to the purest form, protecting life and eliminating life has equal value. Because it's all relative.
Yeah. It's anarchy.
Yeah. So we just,
I think it works almost everywhere except the extremes. I think maybe kind of what you're saying.
Yeah, right. There is the idea, you need relativism. Relativism came out of the idea that you don't have, well, you had you had what some of the history of this is that you had romanticism, which is the idea that, well, you go to battle to save the country, right? But the reality is that people lose their arms and lose their eye and get killed. And, so romanticism doesn't fully represent the true reality. Okay. Then you had modernism, where it was putting things in categories, but they were very, especially in art, very sharp edged, or primary shapes, primary colors. So there was categories, but they were compartmentalized to kind of like put them in a bucket. It's like they're categories. Okay. Then postmodernism led into the idea, well, there are no categories. And then a spin-off of that was relativism, stating that all opinions, all perspectives are of equal value in the pure form of
they're all equally shit.
Right. So, but the problem comes in is that when you have one of the nodes within the relativism that has more power than the others,
then they're not all equally shit. One is less shit.
Right. Then you have systemic risk. And when you have systemic risk, you have to solve that problem, because in that system, the systemic risk is causing disruption that could be very detrimental to the society. But I'm going to have to get going here.
Because definitely, Paul. I just want to do return the compliment you said earlier. I feel grateful and gratitude for meeting you as well, and I just want to extend my thanks again for sharing your time with me. It's the most valuable resource we have, non-renewable resource, and I think you kind of look at time in a similar way as it pertains to people, and that you're investing it into people, right? You're investing in people and ideas, which I think is the one of the highest level things you can do intellectually with your time. And I don't think a lot of people actually think of it that way, but I think you do. And I just want to say thank you again, because I do pretty small channel, and it's not something you needed to do. Could have just gone the way of well, I'm just going to try to go bigger is better type of deal, which
no, the idea is that we can't approach this monolithically. We need big fish and small fish in the pond.
And we can't all be Dr. What's the name? Dr. Mike or Dr. Adam? I can't remember. Shrimp Dude told me about this one dude who's like, he described him as Dr. Campbell without the knowledge, but who's better looking. Who I guess he has like millions of followers on YouTube. I still haven't checked.
I think I know who he's talking about.
I can't remember his name, but
I know. Anyway. I think I know who he's talking about.
Yeah,
but he's a younger guy. He's like in his 30s.
Yeah.
But I got to get going. I got to study.
Okay, for sure. Yeah, my grandparents are probably wondering. Well, my grandpa is anyway. He's probably like, "Where's he at?" So,
okay. Yeah. Well,
thanks a lot, Paul, for having me on your show. And I would love to rehost it on mine.
I'll give you the link and everything. Yeah,
awesome.
It'll take a little time to process, but
I'll
send you the link. But let me stop the recording here.